Hello, everyone, and thanks once again for tuning into the Western Hunting Hub podcast. Today, Clint chats with Ryan Smith from Hunt, Arizona, as they talk about over-the-counter hunt opportunities in Arizona. But before they get into it, Ryan wanted to make a quick correction to his on-the-spot response to the 3 types of turkeys in Arizona. The correct answer for the 3 types of turkeys that live in Arizona are Gould's, Marian's, and Rio turkeys. We hope you all enjoy this episode, and happiest holidays to you all. Enjoy!
All right, Ryan, thanks for jumping on the Western Hunting Hub podcast. I don't even have that down right yet. I got to make sure that I'm saying our new name. It's just a little weird. And those of you that are listening, thank you for listening and following the transition there, because not all platforms have that updated. So it's kind of a goofy thing. RSS feeds are a complicated thing for the average dude that doesn't understand technology. So that's a fun hurdle to navigate. But anyway, that's not important. Ryan, you, I think, we're probably listener number uno, almost. Awesome. Like I don't know, the opening days of submitting my first episode, I sat there and was looking. Oh, I got a listener. Oh, I got something. I got to download. So that first 2 days, I was like, oh, I got 5 downloads. Text a picture of this screenshot. I got 10 downloads. This is awesome. And now we're 10,000 plus, and finally getting to chat. First off, how did you find it?
So I was gearing up for an over-the-counter elk hunt, Colorado archery style. I was getting ready for that, and I just kind of wanted something different to listen to, so I jumped on my podcast platform and looked at, just typed in Colorado hunting podcast, and that was the thing that popped up. As you said, you used to be the Colorado Hunting Hub, so that popped up right away, and I looked at the date of when the episode that I was about to listen to was, and it was actually the same day. I think it was like April 8th or something like that.
Oh, so you were first listener. Yeah. That's awesome.
I literally, it popped up the date on there, and I looked, and it was the same day. So I was kind of like, oh, well, that's weird, but we'll start listening.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I know there's a lot of really good podcasts out there, and I appreciate you having ours as one of those. Because I listen to some of the greats, and it's hard to measure up, but I just trying. We were just chatting before we hit record, but we're not trying to be famous, and either are you with what you're trying to do. It's our passion, and we just want to share. So first off, what do you do? And then first off, what do you do professionally? I'd love to hear that, and then dive into the Hunt Arizona and the YouTube channel.
All right. So I guess professionally, I'm in the military. I've been in the Air Force for about 12 years now. I was active duty for 6 years in North Carolina, met my wife, and then she was originally from Tucson. That's where I live now, Tucson, Arizona. She was from here. I left active duty, came here, joined the Air National Guard in Arizona, and that's where I've been for nearly 6 years. So yeah, professionally, I'm a military guy.
Well, appreciate you serving and what you've done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Instagram wise, so I have an Instagram page. It's at hunt_AZ. And it's really a page for the hunters of Arizona. I'm not trying to, like you said, we spoke a little before this, but I'm not trying to make money on it. I'm just trying to help everybody experience everybody else's stuff on a hunting platform. I'll share anything from spike whitetail to 200 plus inch muley to 400 inch elk, whatever you got. Send it my way. If it's killed in Arizona, I'll share it. And I think it's doing well. I get a lot of response out of it. And like I said, it's not me trying to promote any one outfitter. I do share outfitters photos, but it's more me trying to spread the frosting on the cake for everybody and let everybody get a little piece of sharing their story or their adventure or their kill across Instagram.
Yeah.
That's
and then cool things to see.
Right.
It's just cool stuff to see, because now you and I are 3-4 states as the crow flies apart. And the hunting, even though Western South Dakota is Western hunting, I don't know if anybody's argued against that. I don't know. Don't care. But typically you're thinking Wyoming, Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Western hunting, Montana. And the hunting is just so different. It's so different. So it's cool to see like-minded guys and gals that are doing what I'm doing states away, and to see the opportunities and the things that they get to do right after work. They would go run out, and you guys are chasing coos deer, and you getting to know it, and the things you're learning. It's kind of fun to watch, just as an outsider. And then okay,
and I think in reality, this page has helped me learn more than I think I've helped anybody else. I don't know. I get questions all the time. Hey, what's the regs on this? Or what do you think about this? Or whatever. I answer the questions the best I can. And if I don't have the answers, I find them and get back to people. But I'm originally an East Coast guy. I was born and raised on a dairy farm in Western New York. So I grew up tree stand hunting. You go sit in a tree stand, freeze your butt off, read a book, and wait for nothing to walk past you. And then, I was pretty successful with that up and down the East Coast. And then I came out here and it was a complete new world. So I really appreciate the feedback I get from all my followers, and as well as the knowledge I get from them, whether I just have a conversation with them or I'm reading their posts or watching their little video clips. I'm learning, I think, more than they're learning from me or they're getting out of me.
Yep. I would mirror that as well. I feel the same way. Listeners force me to figure out what I'm talking about, or if I don't know, or love the feedback. The feedback is fun. I love reading that. That's fun.
And people come up with these questions that I'm like, I've never thought that why this or why that. And so then it gets me digging into all this stuff and just gaining so much knowledge.
And ultimately making us better hunters.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. And then I interrupted you. You've got more to that.
Oh, so I have a small YouTube channel. In reality, we're not trying to make money on it. We're not trying to blow it up or anything like that. If we gain followers or subscribers, I guess on YouTube as they call it, cool. That's awesome. We more or less started this. It's me, my brother-in-law, his brother, and their cousins. More just started it as a thing for something to do, just another way to try to have fun with it. And also, my kids are growing up a little more than any of theirs, but they're all starting to have kids. So we want to be able to have the videos to share when our kids get older.
I always wondered what Grandpa's hunts were like. And it's pretty cool that you will have some of those to share. I hear stories of Grandpa crawling through the field and getting too close to some antelope where he can almost poke them, but he never got a shot because he's too close. I've heard that story 100 times, but I can't see it. As a little kid, you always think you picture that in black and white because it's not. There wasn't color TV then, so you wonder. Yeah, you totally wonder. So that's a cool thing. I never thought about that, and I don't. Other than having pictures, I mean, that's one thing that helps with that. Also, is we have cameras in our pockets, so we can take cool pictures, and I can show my kid. You can show your kids and grandkids what we did way back when we could actually do it. And
if I could give anybody advice though, if they're thinking of starting a YouTube channel or filming hunts, whether they're just filming hunts to have the hunt being filmed, the film or the filming of the hunt is by far your last priority. Like, it's going to be cool if you get a kill shot on video, but I'd rather kill the animal than not get the shot on video. Like, We had an incident this year. We were elk hunting. Something happened with the camera, spooked an elk. We had an elk at 24 yards. The elk could have been dead. Things just didn't go right. And so if anybody takes anything from this conversation and you're going to try to film hunts, worry about your number one priority first, and that's harvesting an animal. If you get it on film, that's the bonus.
I almost don't like Remy Warren's Solo Hunter. I'm probably in the minority here because that guy is a BA. Guy's a hunter. He knows 10 times more 100 times more things than I could ever know, and is way more successful. But watching it, it's almost like you would rather have someone there because he is trying to capture stuff. And it almost seems like it gets in the way sometimes. So
it's a whole nother level of stress.
Right.
And hunting is hard enough as it is, then to add that extra layer onto it.
Yeah.
And some people are going to disagree with me. Some people go out and they kill big animals every year. Good for you. If that's your thing, then that's awesome. And hunting may not be hard to you. But to the average DIY guy, hunting is difficult. And to just add that one extra layer, sometimes it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. But I do like Remy Warren. Don't think I don't like Remy Warren.
Yeah. No, I think everybody likes Remy Warren. I think you're just thinking of it at a different angle. Like
right.
The stress factor that comes with trying to film and kill an animal at the same time.
Absolutely. Or take your buddy that doesn't understand hunting as well. And and then on top of that, have a camera. I mean, the one handicap already is there. You don't need another.
Right.
So, Coues deer's your thing, and you and I have messaged back and forth a ton, and I know that's kind of been something that has really driven you and you've really enjoyed doing. What was it? I mean, you came from New York and hunted whitetails. What was the connection to Coues deer? Like, what got you into that?
I guess, let's see, what got me into it was a whitetail. I love hunting whitetail. And before I came here, I had never rifle hunted in my life. New York, you could only hunt with shotgun with a slug or archery. So you're doing the same thing. So I chose archery all the time. So I've harvested most of my deer with a bow. Then I came here and went from a completely flat farmland to these big, rugged, rocky mountains or rolling grass hills or desert landscape. And so just the landscape alone and the terrain alone really got me into it. And being up in the mountains, there was something about that for me. I think just because I didn't really grow up doing that, to where I didn't really want to be down in the flats as much. Now, don't get me wrong, you'll find Coues down low in the deserts, in the flats. But it was just about being in the mountains. And then everybody that I came into a companionship with when I moved here, most everybody was into chasing Coues. So I kind of that's where my cards were placed, is I was with these guys that only wanted to hunt Coues. And it's just, to me, it's a blast. You get up there and you blast for miles and miles and hours, whatever it takes, and you just keep blasting. And then you find these little creatures just cruising through these hillsides. And you could be staring at it 1 second, and then the next second you blink and it's gone. They just disappear that fast, or they blend in that well. Or the other way around, you could be staring at this hillside for 4 hours, and you swear you've looked at every tree. Then you look at this tree again, and boom, this gray ghost just pops into your scope, not your scope, into your binos. And it just, once you do it, once I did it, it just became a complete addiction.
Huh. And I've heard before that the 70s, 80s in Colorado were the heyday of mule deer. And I've also heard it's kind of the heyday of Coues deer right now. Is there some truth to that, or no?
Yeah. In the few years that I've been doing it, like I said, it's been about 6 years now. I've seen a popularity in Coues deer just skyrocket. It seemed like when I first started doing it, you'd put in for a rifle tag, and there was a few units that would have multiple hundred leftover tags. I mean, it would be nothing to see a couple of these units down south that would have anywhere from 1 to 200 leftover tags. And so the way the draw system works in Arizona, which I shouldn't be saying this is like a secret that's no longer a secret anymore, but whatever, we'll get it out there. So the draw system in Arizona, if you don't draw a deer tag, about 2 weeks after the results come out of the draw, they come out with a list of leftover tags, and you can put in for that leftover tag and not sacrifice any points. So what people were doing would, they'd put in for these deer tags, and then they put in for like these quote unquote trophy hunts or rut hunts, which we'll get into the rut hunt here in a little bit, but they put in for those knowing they weren't going to draw it because they didn't have enough points, and then go pick up a leftover tag. So they were still able to hunt coos every year. Well, the popularity's gone through the roof with these whitetail, and I'm starting to see less and less leftover tags each year.
Huh. And yeah, bringing things to the light is kind of that gray area of what we do in recording a podcast or running a Instagram or a YouTube channel. But again, how is hunting changed your life, my life, and how can it influence someone else? So
Right, absolutely.
Creating some more opportunities. So whatever, we gotta.
And like we said earlier, I'm not doing this for me. If I can get somebody new into the woods or onto a hillside, then all right, that's awesome. That's a win. And I have taken people that have never done any of this before and just taken them out and sat them on a hillside and glassed deer. And some of them love it, and some of them are like, well, this just isn't for me, Yeah. And if you can create that opportunity for somebody else, then it could go on for generations after that. So
exactly. And so let's talk about Arizona hunting specifically. Okay. And one of the big things is the over-the-counter opportunities, because that has just kind of been slid into places here and there, and I kept hearing it on podcasts over and over again. Tell us about the over-the-counter unit hunting opportunities.
So Arizona has multiple over-the-counter opportunities. I guess we're already on deer, so we'll dive into deer. Starting at the beginning of the year, January is an over-the-counter archery season in most units for both coos and mule deer. Typically, that over-the-counter tag that you're going to get is going to be an any antlered buck. So most of them start on January 1st and run the entire month of January. There are a few units that only do January 1st through January 15th. And I'm not sure if that's a population thing or a size management thing that Arizona's doing. And it seems like those units that are those 15-day windows do have a tendency to have larger bucks in them. But so that's really your first chance in the year to hunt over the counter in Arizona. The good thing about January is if you buy your over the counter tag in January and you don't fill it, you can come back in August when the next over the counter archery season happens. Then there's a small season. It's about a month, mid-August to mid-September. And it's the same thing. It's any antler deer, and it does fill most of the deer units. So then if you don't harvest an animal in that summertime hunt, then you get to go to the second half of December. It's usually the last 2.5 weeks or so of December where you get to hunt archery again and have one more chance at filling your tag, because the tag that you buy is good for 1 calendar year. But once you harvest a deer on that tag, you cannot purchase another tag in the state of Arizona until the next January.
And those are spread out enough? It's not like a month season where you could come for the opening weekend and maybe the end and whatever else. It's right. Spread out enough that makes that feasible to be able to save your money and go on the trip in January and then, I didn't do it. Well, shoot, I could take another week off in August and go again. Or in December, you've got all that time to save up or to do it again. That's a cool opportunity.
And the way that it works out is January is predominantly the rut. Like mule deer are kind of tailing on the tail end of their rut going into January. I mean, this is from my experience. I've seen mule deer start rut a little earlier than the coos. Typically, coos really go hard into rut that middle section of January. And you will start to see the younger bucks in rut earlier. You'll see the pre-rut activity in December. So there's a rifle hunt that's the second half of December that also goes on the same time as that December archery, where people call it the quote-unquote rut hunt. I don't really like it being called the rut hunt. It's not. Most of the time, the deer aren't rutting or doing much rutting activity. They're broken up. Maybe they're back to single deer here and there. But anyways, back to where I was getting. January, you get to hunt the rut. Like, you get to hunt the rut. It's hardcore rutting bucks, fighting bucks. It's awesome. There's deer everywhere. Then if you're not successful in that January, and like I said, you get to move to August, now it's a completely different game, because most of the places it's 100 plus degrees in Arizona in August and September, heck, even into October. But, you're looking at hunting 100, 105 degree temperature. So really your most important thing is water. If you can be in the realm of a water source, that's where you're going to have a more reasonable chance at harvesting in that August, September timeframe.
So let's go back to January. So if in that rut, as they're everywhere, they're covering ground, they're moving, and you got a stick and a string in your hand, what's the tactic? How are you just sitting in the morning and finding spots where they're going to be cruising by, or is it a spot and stock situation? What's the go-to that you like to do?
So what I do in January is kind of a little bit of both. I'll climb up on a hill, and I'll glass, and I'll glass as long as it takes. In January, I don't like to call myself a trophy hunter. I've killed some bigger animals, but I'm not like I have to kill something huge. But in January, because you have the rest of the year to hunt, I try to be a little more selective and trying to find more of a quality animal. But what I'll do is I'll get on top of a hill, I'll glass, and say I find the deer that I want to throw a tag on, and he's running does. You can watch them a little bit, because a lot of times they'll run does right over a ridge and you'll never see them again. So when I'm glassing, I try to glass near a saddle, because most of the time they're coming through these saddles, chasing these does. But so if I can get in their way, that's what I'll do. And if I can watch them running an area, and I'll pack up my glassing stuff and I will work in on them while they're chasing does and try to get between him and his does. That tactic can be a little sketchy, because you're moving. He's not necessarily watching you, but those does sure as heck are onto you. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, glassing them, they will bed at some point. They're going to bed later in the morning. Once they lay down, they don't typically lay kind of right on top of their does or right near their does. There's a gap. So what I'll do is I'll try to get in that gap to where when that doe stands up, he's going to stand up to walk to her, and I will try to get where he has to walk right by me. Almost like when you're hunting elk during archery, you send a caller backwards, mm-hmm. and the caller's pulling the elk right past the shooter. Essentially, the doe is my caller pulling that buck right past me.
Huh. Interesting.
So those are kind of my January tactics. That and a lot of luck.
Yeah.
I love luck.
That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, and then August, sitting on water. Back to December then. What the heck do you do in December when it's pre-rut?
So I in reality, I guess that's the best way to call it, is pre-rut, or getting into a pre-rut situation. That to me is spot and stalk. I will try, and that's honestly where I've been the most successful, is in December, is spot and stalk, and just trying to get in on them, because they're still just kind of milling around. They're not running does, so you're not chasing them up this hill, and by the time you get there, he's 2 ridges over. He's just kind of moseying on, probably going to lay down, and And that's the biggest thing is I like to wait when they lay down, work in on them, because they'll usually lay down. They'll lay down for about a half hour. They'll get up, stretch, pee, spin around, lay back down. And then once they lay down that second time, they're usually down for a while, like a couple hours. So there's your chance to really get in on them tight. And then you might have to wait for them to stand up, and you just sitting under a tree 25, 30 yards away from him for 2 hours waiting for him to stand up. But spot and stalk in December is by far my favorite way to go. I have a friend right now he's been hunting this water hole that we came across back in August. He's been hunting it the last couple of days just because we had cameras on it in August and there was deer everywhere. Well, now he's not finding anything. There's basically these tiny little 3-4 inch spikes coming in daily. Nothing like we had before. So I think he's going to have to get up and start trying to do the spot and stalk and start moving into their neck of the woods instead of them moving to him.
Interesting. So that tag is also good for mule deer, correct?
Correct.
And I admitted to you that might be where my kind of drive would be, to go chasing big muleys. Something about muleys. They piss me off, but yet they're so cool looking. So I struggled the last post rut here in South Dakota trying to get in on some stuff, and it just was hard. If I knew the ground in my head, it just seems so easier, so much easier. And I think in the coming years, as I learn this new kind of terrain, the prairie, I'm going to get this figured out. And it's like a game, just trying to figure that out, figure out what they do. And right now I'm just making my stupid mistakes because I don't hunt much for prairie deer. But I don't know why I'm talking about that. Let's talk about Arizona mule deer. What's the opportunity with that? You see, because we've got coos deer in certain areas, but yet you can get into some mule deer. What's the difference in their habitats that they hang out in?
So pretty typically, and from what I've experienced going into Colorado and other states, it seems your mule deer are more of a high elevation animal, and then your whitetail are your low elevation plains kind of animal. Am I right there?
That's not a bad assumption. I mean,
okay.
Where I was just at, the whitetails were on the river bottoms, the muleys were more into the hills, and there was a little bit of overlay in between. So not true in every situation, but for a general statement, I'd get on board with that.
Yeah, and that's like I said, that's my experience. I've hunted Colorado a few times, and I've seen muleys up 10, 11,000 feet, but I see whitetail down in the river bottoms. Anyways, so it's the exact opposite here. Your whitetail are going to be your high elevation, and that's not necessarily true. I'm talking southern Arizona. Southern Arizona, you get into the mountains, and that's where you're going to find your whitetail, and typically your muleys down in the desert. Now, you go up into northern Arizona where everything's higher elevation anyways, you're going to run into both of them at high elevations. But here in southern Arizona, typically you're chasing muleys down in the desert flats and whitetail up high. And then there's these like rolling hills, kind of grassy rolling hill transition areas where you kind of get both of them. And then the whitetail will venture further down than the muleys going up, if that makes any sense. The muleys don't go as far up as the whitetail go as far down.
That's a really interesting phenomenon because like what you just said, the whitetails are typically in the river bottoms and all that elsewhere in the country. So what makes them so different? It's just that's kind of cool to think. I never heard of that or thought about that. So that's cool. And so we can hunt mule deer during those same times. Tactics change or about the same?
I think they're about the same. I think you're going to do a lot of glassing and then spot stalk. Once you find them, just get after them. Like I said, I try to get up on these hills and try to find the coos. But if most of the time you get in those transition areas or elevations and you're looking around for coos and you just turn your back and look down, you're going to start to run into muleys, especially these real southern units down by the border. You'll find them in there pretty thick down in the desert rate. And then you, like I said, you turn 180 and you're looking at whitetail. And then tactics, it's the same spot and stalk, cut them off from their does and try to get in on them.
Well, here's my secret that I don't know if is a secret yet because I haven't had it work, but it totally works in my head. So I posted that picture of that Ultimate Predator decoy, that bow mounted decoy.
Oh, yeah.
And I am convinced that thing's going to work. So the other day, kind of rolling over some prairie, or I was in the river bottom, I saw some whitetail because there was some other hunters. I think the other hunters bumped those does, whitetail does, or they were just kind of making their way up into the foothills a little bit. I don't know. So they were moving, but they didn't see me, and they're just not alert or alarmed at all. So I kind of snuck up a little closer. I knew they were just over the next hill. Kind of sneaked over, and I just lifted that decoy up, or I lifted my bow up and just had that be in front of me, and saw their backs. One was at 65, one was at 45, out in the prairie. There's nothing there. And
Right.
Snuck up over. The fawn lifted its head, saw me, and just stared. The mom looked at me and just stared. And I had plenty of time, range I could have drawn, and I could have shot. Normal whitetail out in the prairie, if it had seen me, bolted.
Yeah.
Absolutely gone. So they do not, that company does not, I'm not endorsing them in any way. They do nothing for me. But just a product that I found that I am sold on, and it hasn't even worked for me yet. So just giving you that extra couple of seconds to pull that shot off. And I think that's where some of my downfalls have been, is rushing a shot and
Right.
not settling the pin, pulling back on that, my back muscles, and letting that thing fly. So I think that's something that's going to help me quite a bit. And I encourage some people to look at those. They're not cheap. They really are not cheap. And I want to try it for elk here. And then,
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into those.
yeah, it for solo hunting elk, I think I would have tagged out a little sooner, because I was that thing at 30 yards that they couldn't see was there, but they knew it wasn't a cow.
Yeah.
But if they had looked kind of through and seen, hey, there's a cow there, okay, everything's all right, or I'm going to go over there and check it out, then I probably could have gotten that shot opportunity. So a little shout out to a buddy in Colorado that kind of led me to them. And so try them out, because you use it, any of those other Montana decoys, whatever, and you're fumbling around with stuff. You can't draw with them. I had that Montana decoy antelope hunting, and I set that thing up, and the wind's blowing, and I'm holding on to that with like my pinky and ring finger, holding with my bipod with my index and thumb, and holding on to my gun in there too, and the buck's running in, trying to run that decoy over, that little buck from my decoy, run it off, and he stopped at 80 yards, chip shot, but holding on to that decoy that's blowing just made me so steady. I put my finger on the trigger, let off like 4 times, because I did not feel steady. Just because all the fiddle farting around with a stupid decoy doesn't work solo hunting. It's tough. It's really tough. So I think I'm going to try those a few more, and I'd love to buy the mule deer, and I'd love to buy the elk, because so far I noticed the mule deer don't care for the whitetail decoy. I thought there'd be no difference, but I think they kind of know. But
one other thing that I think could give you a leg up, especially in the desert. So everything you walk on is super loud here in the desert. It's the sound just carries everywhere, because you're not in thick trees for it to knock your sound down, and everything's crunchy. It sounds like you're walking on a box of Cheerios. So if I give anybody a tip, bring like a pair of, if you don't want to go spend the money on, I think they're called like bear paws or something, not the boots that ladies wear. I'm talking these things that strap the butt. They strap to the bottom of your feet, and it makes your walking through the desert real quiet.
Huh.
What I do instead of that is I just go to like a dollar store and buy a cheap pair of slippers. And then when I'm going to go in on a stalk, I take my boots off and start hiking in these slippers to be super quiet.
I didn't know that.
A little piece of advice for that: if you're going to do that, put your boots in your backpack. Don't leave your boots there because you might not remember exactly where you left them, and you don't want to have to hike back and look all over this hillside for them. Everything in the desert does poke you or try to stick you in some way or another.
So before we hit record too, you're mentioning other over-the-counter opportunities. So that's the popular one now is the mule deer and the coos, but there's other stuff there.
Correct. So we'll jump over. There's an over-the-counter turkey tag that runs the same time as your August-September deer tag. So if you're there's not many units that have that over-the-counter turkey tag, but if you happen to be hunting deer in one of the units where they coincide, it may be worth your money to throw that turkey tag in your pocket. And that's up to you. That's depending on your budget. It's not something that I think you're going to have a high chance of success at filling, but if you see one, you got the tag.
And those are all Rios, right?
No, we have, there's Gould's turkey down here. And then, yes, there's, what is it? The Gould's and
Merriam's.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Oh, okay. I am not a well-versed turkey hunter.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't really ever get into the turkey here. I did it more on the East Coast. I don't chase so much here. So anyway, so that's your turkey opportunity, and that's an archery tag. Then you go into pushing into the fall. You can pick up an over-the-counter bear tag for many units, and those are typically rifle tags. Well, you can archery hunt them if you want, but that usually starts in October. That season runs you from October through December, I believe. But the weird thing is here in Arizona, say you're hunting unit, let's see, what's the unit here? 33, right outside of Tucson. You're hunting unit 33 for bear, and there's a harvest limit for sows. So once, I believe it got bumped to 2, but it used to be 1. I could be wrong in that. But once, say, 1 sow is killed, that hunt is closed. That unit is closed. And so you have to, once you kill a bear, you have to report it. And then there's a 1-800 number that links you to Game and Fish that you're supposed to call daily before your bear hunts to see if it's updated, and it will tell you if which units are closed. So that's on your responsibility to follow up with that daily as you're bear hunting. But there is an over-the-counter bear opportunity there for you. And then stepping over, there's javelina. Javelina is, which a lot of people, I guess we'll cover that. A lot of people don't know what a javelina is. It's essentially like a pig. It's not technically a pig. Everybody calls them a pig, so they're a pig. But they are a rodent that runs the desert about the size of a pig. They run in these little herds. Very poor eyesight, so they're fun to hunt with archery because you can get in on them. But that's the month of January, and then there's some other over-the-counter opportunities in the fall and also December. So if you're hunting January or December deer, that tag is also very well worth it to put in your pocket, and that one has from my experience, a pretty high success rate.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. And it's just an extra tag to have in your pocket, and it's fun because you could be glassing deer or not glassing deer all day long and then see a herd of javelina and say, well, what the heck? Why not? Let's cruise up and stick one of them.
Yeah.
And then mountain lion is an over-the-counter tag as well.
So
go ahead.
What do these things run?
So we've done most of this conversation on deer. So we'll go, your deer tag for your non-permit is what they'll call it in the Arizona regulations book is $300. That's for your non-permit tags. Your typical tag for deer as a non-resident, I believe is like 315, somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
That's for a
close
rifle
enough.
tag. Yeah. Bear tag is 150. I think your javelina tag's about 100 or 115. And then your turkey tag is, I think, 90. And mountain lion is in the range of 75-ish to 100. But
And
this is all for non-resident.
right, that's what I was just going to clear up. It's like,
Yeah.
obviously that's non-resident. We're talking about that.
Yeah.
So
And
not
then,
horrible. And do you,
no, and your resident license fee that you have to buy also, because you have to buy I said resident. You have to buy your non-resident license on top of your tag. I think that's pretty typical for any Western state.
yeah.
But your non-resident license fee is $160, and then you have the prices of those tags. Arizona does have an incentive to get youth hunters in. Youth hunting license is $5. That's resident or non-resident.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's a big incentive to try to get, obviously, youth hunters into it. But the other idea is if we can pull out-of-state youth hunters, we can also pull out-of-state adult hunters.
How old do they got to be?
10.
Oh.
And then the deer tag for a youth is, I think it's like 63. Some in there, 63, 65, whatever.
Wow. Well, I better make it before 8 years down the road, but I'll be there in 8 years.
Fair enough. Yeah, you better come on before that.
I know. I took a state job, and the pay isn't that great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will supplement other things to make sure I can hunt, because I've been thinking about the Arizona hunt for 2-3 years now. So it's on the list. This would have been probably a good year to do it had we not uprooted and totally changed our lives completely.
Changed everything around.
Yeah. We're living in a camper, a 20-foot camper with a 2.5-year-old, trying to potty train, and
that's a blast.
It's winter in South Dakota, and it's not fun. Really, I want to get in a house so bad, but everybody wants to move to South Dakota. A ton of people are moving to South Dakota, because they want to hit a rural area. And just the influx of people into rural areas is kind of crazy right now, and we're experiencing it. So anyway, it's going to happen.
Are you at least setting up a Christmas tree for them? I mean, we're 2 days before Christmas.
Oh, yeah. We have a 2-foot Christmas tree in our 20-foot camper. We got lights around the top, on the inside, and we're actually going to head to the in-laws and go stay in a house. What a luxury.
Oh,
we're going to stay in a house, my in-laws, and so we'll go be with family, which that was the whole reason of moving to South Dakota, is to get closer to family, and so we can have a normal Christmas, not in a camper. So,
right.
But I tell you what, like we were talking earlier, South Dakota's got some opportunities, and I know you just mentioned that you were sold and gonna come on up, because there's some good hunting. There's some good hunting, and it's gorgeous. It's just cool hunting.
When's like the draw deadlines that I need to be looking for South Dakota?
The archery, you got to have that by April 1st. That is a brand new thing, as of a year ago or so. So, but it's a statewide archery. You don't have to make any decision on where you're going, what unit, anything. You just put in for the statewide tag, and you're good to go.
Okay.
And not have to worry about. And they do have an East River tag, a West River tag, but that just allows you to have a West River tag and a statewide tag. So you could pick up two buck tags if you really wanted to, but if you're doing it with a bow, I'd say one's good enough.
Just focus on one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they switched it from previous years where you could apply and it would literally show up 3 days later in the mailbox. So I think just because of the amount of new archery hunters across the country, they've made people plan ahead a little bit more or something. I'm not sure. And so, April 1st is that deadline, I believe, for that. So for non-residents, for residents, it's different. So make sure
Okay.
get in for that. The other thing you just missed by probably 10 days is putting in for other preference. If you're looking for preference points for rifle, anything, they're like $10 for preference points for non-residents. You don't have to buy a license. You don't have to do anything. So I had been putting in for West River deer, antelope, and one other thing. I lost all my elk points here because it's not open to residents. So I'm starting back at 0, and it takes 15 to 20 to draw an elk tag in South Dakota.
Ooh, that hurts.
Yeah. But there's good bulls, really good bulls. Yeah. It's like probably a little bit more opportunity than Nebraska, but Nebraska, you see them hogs that come out of there. There's tons of upper 300s and 400-inch bulls that I just see, like, that's all that gets posted. Monster bulls.
Awesome.
But yeah. So anyway, highlight of a couple of fun states, more so important that I wanted to chat about Arizona, because that's coming up. What do you got rolling here? So, well, I guess, are you just finishing? You've just finished this, I guess, tag, but you filled it. Which season did you fill this tag in?
So I filled my rifle coos tag in the middle of October on a rifle hunt. It was the first rifle hunt in the unit that I chose down south. We filled that on, I think, the third day. My brother-in-law and I doubled up. We got into these 2 bucks early in the morning, followed them around a mountain for roughly 2.5 miles, found them bedded again, shot one, thinking the other one was going to stand up. He never stood up. We waited an hour and a half. Then I dropped him, and they were literally 4 feet apart. So that was a pretty awesome hunt.
Oh, wow.
But right now I'm working on my wife's archery tag. She's archery hunting in December. She archery hunted a lot in the August, September. Just kind of had an unlucky run at it for a little bit. So we got her some new equipment. We got her a new bow, and now we're trying to get her into that. And that will also probably be my main focus for January is her archery tag as opposed to mine.
Yep. And then getting after it then in August and December.
Correct.
Awesome.
And probably also, in reality, I'll spend a lot of my January small game hunting. I guess that's something that doesn't get touched on a lot in any hunting conversation is small game. If you do decide to come to Arizona, bring a shotgun. There's quail everywhere. There's rabbits. There's small game all over the place. And it can just be a fun way to burn an afternoon. If you just need to get away from the hills of chasing deer, you want to just go shoot some quail, go shoot some rabbits, whatever you need to do.
My buddy cooked up some quail the other day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was something else. I had it after it had been off the grill, and he brought it to me in a Ziploc bag like an hour later. Not fresh.
It was so good.
And it was fall off the bone. I ate I think he only gave us 6 of them, but I ate 3. My brother ate 3. Those were good.
Yeah.
I've shot 1 quail in my life, and yeah, it was good. It was really, really good. So. Yeah,
I'm looking at throwing some on. On Sundays, I do a Smoker Sundays series. I do it every other Sunday where nice. I'm smoking. I'm throwing just some sort of Arizona wild game on the smoker, cooking it, eating it, posting about it. And one of my upcoming ones is going to be quail. I've come across this like Sonoran desert recipe where it's a prickly pear barbecue sauce with some other mesquite rub into it, and sounds delicious. So I got to try it.
Yeah. Well, I got my Traeger ordered. It's on its way. So nice. That's what the campground smells like on Sundays is everyone's smoking. And I don't even have much for a grill at all. So we're eating macaroni and sloppy joes. Yeah. So I'm excited to mess around with some smoker cooking and really change the game for wild game. So that I think can definitely change the opportunities for what you do with wild game. But I'm not sitting in my camper right now. I'm sitting in my truck, freezing my fingers off.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna need to probably let you go here, and we kind of wrap this up pretty well. But yeah, in the new house, I'm putting in a studio. I'm with my mounts, my whatever. I'm gonna get I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna have a studio. So that
Awesome.
can't come soon enough. But I really, really appreciate you Ryan, and the following and the comments and so far the friendship we've created out of nothing. And so
Yeah, absolutely.
that's fun. And the reason why we do this is the networking and the connecting with people. And we've never met face to face, but someday we will, and we'll go on a hunt, whether that's here in
Absolutely. I'm
South
looking
Dakota or
forward to
down in Arizona. So I'm looking forward to that. Well, I
that. Yeah,
appreciate
so
you. And we will let you go.
awesome. Thanks a lot, Clint.
But it ain't my ground. This is God's country.